It was a routine flight from New York to London, or so everyone thought. The hum of the engines, the soft chatter of passengers, and the faint clinking of glasses from the beverage cart filled the cabin. In row 12, near the window, a young woman named Emily Carter was fast asleep, her head resting against the glass, unaware that within an hour, the lives of everyone on board would depend on her. Emily wasn't an ordinary passenger. 5 years ago, she was a combat pilot in the Air Force, one of the best. But after a tragic accident during a rescue mission that took the life of her co-pilot, her fiancé, she'd walked away from flying. She promised herself never to step into a cockpit again. The plane cruised smoothly at 37,000 feet. Passengers relaxed, flight attendants smiled, until a sudden jolt shook the cabin. Drinks spilled, people gasped. Then came a trembling voice over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking, we're experiencing a minor technical issue. Please remain seated." But, minor, quickly turned into panic. The plane shuddered again, lights flickered, and the air masks dropped from the ceiling. Gasps turned into cries. In the cockpit, Captain Harris was sweating. One of the engines had failed, and worse, his co-pilot had collapsed moments earlier from what appeared to be a heart attack. The autopilot malfunctioned, and the plane began to drift off course. The captain's voice trembled as he called the cabin crew. "We need help. I need another pilot. Anyone with flying experience." The lead flight attendant, Mara, ran down the aisle, shouting, "Is there a pilot on board? Please, anyone." Most passengers froze in fear. No one moved, until a man in row 13 nudged the sleeping woman ahead of him. "Hey, miss, they're asking for a pilot." Emily blinked awake, disoriented. "What, a pilot?" she asked groggily. "Yes, the captain needs help." Her heart began to race. She hadn't flown in years. But looking around, the panic, the crying children, the terrified faces, she knew she couldn't ignore this. Taking a deep breath, she stood up. "I'm a pilot," she said firmly. Mara's eyes widened with relief. "Please, come with me." As Emily stepped into the cockpit, memories hit her like a wave, the smell of metal, the blinking lights, the sound of the controls. It was all too familiar. Captain Harris looked up in shock. "You're a pilot?" "Former Air Force," she replied, strapping herself in. "What's the situation?" "Engine 2 is down, autopilot's fried, and my co-pilot's unconscious," Harris said, voice cracking. "We're losing altitude fast." Emily's instincts kicked in. "All right, I've got this." She grabbed the controls, steadying the nose of the plane. "Reduce thrust to 70% on engine 1, she commanded. Harris followed her lead without question. Outside, lightning flashed, a storm had rolled in, and turbulence battered the aircraft. Alarms blared, but Emily's voice remained calm, clear, and precise. In the cabin, passengers clutched their seats, praying. One little girl whispered, "Mommy, are we going to fall?" Her mother held her close and whispered back, "Someone's helping us, sweetie." Inside the cockpit, Emily was fighting the storm, her hands steady. Sweat dripped down her forehead, but her eyes never left the instruments. She radioed air traffic control, declaring an emergency. "Mayday, Mayday, Flight 267 requesting immediate descent. One engine out, co-pilot incapacitated." The controller replied, "Copy that, Flight 267. You're clear to descend to 10,000 feet. Emergency crews are standing by." Emily guided the plane through the roaring wind, adjusting every control by instinct. When the runway lights of Shannon Airport appeared through the storm clouds, she exhaled for the first time in 20 minutes. "Landing gear down," she said calmly. The wheels deployed. Flaps full. Speed 140 knots. The plane touched the ground with a heavy thud, but safely. Cheers erupted from the cabin. Some passengers cried, others clapped and prayed in gratitude. Captain Harris turned to Emily, still in disbelief. "You just saved 178 lives." Emily smiled faintly, her hands trembling now that the danger was over. "No, Captain, we saved them." When she stepped out of the cockpit, passengers stood and applauded her. Mara hugged her tightly. "You were asleep an hour ago," she whispered, "and now you're a hero." Emily looked out the window at the rain-slick runway and smiled softly. Maybe it's time to fly again. And as she walked away, the dawn began to break, a quiet light after the longest night. Moral: sometimes life gives you another chance, not to erase your past, but to prove you've grown beyond it.